Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you're returning, thank you as always for being here. I have some brand new Christmas DIYs, so let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting.
DIY number one. All right, this is just a black canvas. It is from Arteza. I've had it in my stash for a while. You don't have to use black. You could totally use a white canvas and paint it whatever color you want, but I opted to start with a black canvas. This is inspired by something that I saw online, and so I did keep kind of referencing my picture on my phone, but I'm using a baby wipe of all things with a canvas, along with my Adirondack chalk paint, my Adirondack white chalk paint. The reason I'm using the baby wipe, I didn't want it to be real heavy on the canvas. I wanted some of that black to show through. My intent is to create kind of like not necessarily hills, but landscape. And I wanted some of the black to show through to create shadows and dimension with the ground, so to speak, for lack of a better term. So this was my idea. I imagine you could probably use a chip brush, or if you are a better artist than I, I'm sure that there are other things that you can do to create this effect. But I figured I would try the baby wipe, and it worked perfectly for what I was trying to do. So now I'm just using my heat gun to dry that a little bit more quickly so that I can keep working. I now have one of my Arteza paint markers. This is white, and I'm just going to make little dashes all through this triangular shape that is going to be my first tree that I am drawing on the canvas. And so just little tiny dashes. And y'all, this was so much fun, so easy to do. And to be honest, I was shocked at how nicely it turned out. I absolutely love this piece. So I hope you're going to like it too. You can see I keep referencing my phone because I'm trying to remember how these different images were done. Now, this is where I started to make my mistake. And it turned out fine. It's fine. It's nice. It's still really, really nice. But I should not have drawn that line right there, nor the dot over on the right. What I should have done is started with the furthermost trees, because essentially I'm aiming to put 5 trees on here. So it was great that I started with the middle, but this far left tree I should have done next, and then the far right I should have also done next, because now you can see that line that I placed to create another tree, it is not centered between those other 2 trees. So if you are going to attempt this, I sincerely hope that you will learn from my mistake. Do the middle tree first, do the outermost trees next, and then you can center your 4th and 5th trees between trees 1, 3, and 5. So here I'm trying to correct for what I've done. And this poor little tree, and again, it is fine. It turned out really cute, but it wasn't what I wanted. So I wanted it to just be a single line trunk. Now it's a double line trunk. So I've got a fat trunk instead of just a little stick trunk. So it's fine. It's absolutely fine. So we're just going to keep going with it. And if I hadn't told you that I messed up, maybe you wouldn't have noticed. And I don't know. Maybe you would have anyway. But yeah, just creating some lines through here to give it some more, I don't know, filling it in, trying to do something with it to salvage the mistake I made. So just running through it with the white, and I'm trying to remember now if I switch. No, I don't, not yet. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to completely fill in that far right tree with the Adirondack, it's not Adirondack white. This is my paint marker. This is a chalk paint marker. You could certainly use acrylic if you would like, but this is just the one that I still had white paint in. Shockingly, I've used a ton of the paint in my white paint markers. They're like almost completely dry at this point. For the other tree on the far left, you could see I was filling it in, but just leaving little bits of black. And now on the tree I messed up on, you can see I was just coming in and making little dashes down to create kind of the branches, creating a trunk on the far left tree with the white. And now this is where I'm coming in with my gold chalk paint. No, not chalk paint, gold Sharpie paint marker. It's a metallic gold. It is super pretty. As you can see, I created a star on the far left tree. And now I'm going to come in and add little dots to each of my, what would you call them? Fronds? I don't even know what you want to call those. But as you can see, I went through and added little gold dots to each of those. Now on the center tree, creating a trunk in the gold. I did mess up here trying to get more paint in it. I had kind of pressed down and then I had it gushing paint. So I tried to get a paper towel to soak it up. It didn't want to soak. So I just ended up dabbing it and trying to get up some of that extra paint to the best of my ability. And of course I smudged it a little bit in the process. I thought about going over it with black paint and then ultimately just decided I was going to leave it. It's giving my trunk some character. I could have made the trunk a little bit wider to also try and compensate for that or cover it up, but I decided just to leave it. So tree number 5 is now coming in with just the gold paint. You can see I was able to salvage this one completely because of my 2 little white dots there. I was able to incorporate them into this particular tree style. And again, I thought that this was coming out so sharp. I think I'm going to definitely be hanging this on my wall. I don't think this one's going to be getting given away. I like it that much. But created another star on the far right tree. This one is completely filled in, and I am just going to continue to flesh it out there a little bit until I get it looking the way that I want it. It's maybe a little bit larger than I had intended, but it's a nice pretty star. Now I'm going to come in to the middle of this tree and create the tree form with its little trunk. And again, I just keep referencing my phone, you guys. So I would really encourage you, if you see something online that you think is really nice, go for it. Try and recreate it. Why not? What have you got to lose? That was all that I was doing here, to be quite honest. And even though I did mess up, again, I still think it came out really, really sweet. So I've got my white paint marker again, coming back to that gold tree, and I'm adding a little ball to each of the ends and then little dots all up and down the length of the branches. So just dotting it all the way along until that is completely full with the dots. And then I did come back in just a second. I think that's where I'm going to do it. I'm going to be filling in that middle tree just a little bit more. As I was looking at it, it seemed a little bit too sparse to me. So yeah, here I'm just coming back in and creating some additional dashes. I'll continue to work my way through the tree just until I get it to the way that I want it and looking nice for my eye. So just do what makes your heart happy and do what makes your eyes smile. And then I did go over some bits and pieces of it just to give it an additional coat of paint, so to speak. Oh, coming in with the gold, I forgot. I did add some gold to this trunk just to kind of jazz it up a little bit. It looked like it could use something. And plus I had a lot of gold on the right side. I figured some additional gold on the left would just kind of help to balance out my picture a little bit. So then I did go back and just give that another coat of paint, which really made that gold pop. And I love this so much. I hope that you like it too. But leave me a comment, just say hello, and let me know what you think of this piece. DIY number 2. All right, this is Garland from the Hobby Lobby that I picked up on clearance, as well as, I'm going to call them wreath forms for lack of a better term. I don't know what you would call those, but I've had them in my stash for a little bit. My sweet subscriber Rose had sent them to me a while back, and I am really just going to use this wired garland and cover these trees right along that that wire that goes kind of around the conical shape. A picture says 1,000 words, right? So here you can see a little bit better than what I was trying to explain what I'm doing. I'm going to work it all the way down, and using the wire that's in that garland, I'll help it to secure it to itself. Just using my wire cutters to trim that off, and then I will fasten it around the base there. I did the same exact thing to tree number 2, and now I'm ready to decorate them. And I wasn't quite sure how I wanted to do the ribbon at first, but I did end up going ahead and making little loop bows. So you kind of make like the cancer awareness ribbon and then squish it in the middle. And then you can tie it off with a little wire or a chenille stem. I opted to go into my stash and grab some chenille stems that were silver. It's kind of hard to tell here on the screen, maybe, at least while I'm doing this with a teeny little screen. But there is some silver running through my ribbon. So it's red and white, but then it also has some silver in there. So the chenille stem in silver was perfect. And then I was able to just go ahead and make a bunch of these and attach them to the little trees, just using that chenille stem again to attach them. I then grabbed these little silver, I'm going to call them poinsettias. I don't know if they are actually poinsettias, but they're from the Dollar Tree. They're silver. I'm going to call them poinsettias for lack of a better term, and I am going to attach some of these around my tree as well, just using the wire that's inside the picks to attach them, keeping it simple. So now I have some just scrap wire that I had in my stash from, I think I took it off of chicken wire or something a while back, but I held on to it because I thought it might come in handy. I was trying to figure out how to attach it to some of these pine cones. These were from a pack that came from Michael's that had been in a grab box that I picked up last year or the year before. But I'm hot gluing the wires to the base of the pine cone so that I can attach them to my trees as well. And I attached those wherever I had the little flowers. But let me know what you think of this. DIY number 3. All right, I have some green fabric here that I pulled out of my stash, and I'm folding it in half. I'm gonna make sure that everything is nice and lined up, and then I am going to cut right along that folded edge so that I have 2 identically sized pieces. Same size, same shape. I'll go ahead and set one of these aside in just a second. See, I've got 2 of them. All right, so now I'm looking at my stash for some red and white, I don't know, cord. It was really what I was looking for. This is more like a really heavy, what do you call it? Chef's twine? Cooking twine? I think you know, baker's twine. That's what I mean. But I went ahead and started trying to lay out my letters, and I thought that this looked really cute, but I was struggling with how I was going to get this to be on here permanently. I was thinking hot glue, no, it's too thin. I could sew it, but was trying to figure out how I was going to sew it on there. I probably could have used some of that clear thread. You're going to see me using that a little bit later. But eventually I decided that I was going to use this red cord instead. And I was wishing that I had white embroidery thread. I did not, so I opted for yarn instead. The yarn is definitely, I'm going to say, more difficult to work with, because I went ahead and pulled the strands apart, and I was working with 2 strands at a time. When you pull the yarn apart like that, it gets a little bit weaker, so I did have some breakage that I was dealing with. So if you have embroidery thread, definitely recommend that. The one neat thing with using the yarn, however, it gave it a little bit of a fuzzy appearance. So if you think of maybe like a Santa Claus hat where it's the red and then it's got the white fuzz around the brim, it kind of gave that effect. So I actually do like it. I think it just might have been a little bit cleaner looking and easier to do if I had used the embroidery thread. But I'm essentially getting my red cord into the shape that I want and then sewing it down with the white, just going over it. As I was doing it, I realized I really needed to have the shape of my letters already set rather than trying to do it on the fly, because my design was going to be all over the place if I tried to just keep going the way I was. So here you can see I'm just forming it into the letters for my design, and I am pinning it down to the best of my ability. It wasn't perfect, but it was sufficient enough to keep my design where I needed it until I was able to sew it down. And so it actually worked out just fine. So once I had it all pinned down, I was able to trim the cord off at the end, and now I'm no longer attached to my, or I wasn't going to be. I guess I hadn't trimmed it off just yet, but eventually I did trim that off, so I wouldn't be having to deal with that spool as I continued to sew. And I just continued all the way along each of my letters. It did take time. It took probably a few hours, I would say, to do this. And then at the end, I just ran it through the back and cut it off. The back is not so important because you're not ever going to see it. I've got my second piece of fabric here now. I'm going to lay it over the top. I want my design on the inside. So this is inside out. I pinned it all down, and now I'm going to sew it all the way around with my sewing machine, leaving a 6-inch or so gap so that I'll be able to turn it right side out and also stuff it in a minute. So I just pulled out all the pins, turned it right side out. I'm going to make sure that I pop out my little corners just so that they are nice and crisp. And just taking a look at her here, I had some stray threads sticking out that I trimmed off, and now I'm ready to stuff. I'm just making sure I get the stuffing into all of the corners and that it's nice and full, and then I'll be ready to sew up the bottom. So just tucking that in, following the seam line essentially. I'm gonna pin this together. And then I did grab some of my clear thread that I mentioned earlier, and I'm just using a needle and thread to sew this all together right across the bottom. And that's going to be it for this cute little pillow. I can't wait to show you the end result here in just a second. But I'm just using a simple stitch to go right along the bottom there with that clear thread. And yeah. I do like to pull it through the inside of the pillow and then out and then trim that off, so I've got a nice tail. DIY number 4. So these are little wooden cutouts of snowflakes. I'm not sure if this particular batch came from the Dollar Tree or Michael's or elsewhere, but I have a bunch of different paints in pale blue, icy blue, white, silver. A couple of these I had mixed a while back. They were just in my stash. I ended up having to actually add some water to them because they were starting to dry out because it had been so long. But I'm painting each of these snowflakes a different color, all in this kind of blue slash white slash silver family, just so that they'll be different but somewhat coordinated. I had crystal chalk paint, Adirondack white chalk paint, I think it's called silver lining, and then the other thrي were honestly paints that I had mixed myself a while ago. So once I had them all painted, I took my heat gun to it because I wanted to get them dry so I could continue to craft with them. And now I'm using the little hole that's in each of these for the hanger that had come with them. I'm just going to use that as my attachment point, so to speak. And I've got just a chenille stem there that I am using to try and help me keep them all together in the center. I decided I wanted the white on the opposite side, but then I just went ahead and used some hot glue to attach them all right there in the middle. And then I had these little blingy diamond things from in my stash that I went ahead and added to the center of it, just to kind of cover up that hole and give a focus point to the middle of the snowflake. Then I flipped it over and I'm going to put another one on the other side. So just running some hot glue through the hole in the middle there and adding point side down my little diamonds. And then I just held it on there until it was cool enough that I could go ahead and start hanging it. And to hang it, I'm going to be grabbing my clear thread again. So I've got a nice long piece of thread and kind of running it between the middle snowflakes. So right through the middle and letting it kind of cinch up around the center. And that was it. Let me know what you think of this one.
Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the projects, remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite, and until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.